Good.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
So remind me of two things because I don't have your information in front of me. Where you are and how long you've been a subscriber of ESQ.
Um, I'm in like what state I'm in?
Yeah.
Nebraska.
Okay. Okay. And how many magazines have you gotten?
Um, Probably about eight or about seven,
Oh,
seven or
oh,
eight.
okay. Which ESQs do you have of that are recent?
Um, Probably the most recent one is the Carl and the Passions one.
Oh, okay. And do you have this one by any chance?
No.
Okay, it's okay. I just want to show you a few. There's a couple of things that I've been doing with the VIPs. One is I have in this envelope, and I'm sure maybe you could search it on YouTube after the fact, but one thing I'm doing is like a secret word. If you manage, it's just an everyday word. It's not in the Beach Boys vocabulary of songs or anything like that. But if you say it, you'll get a highly historic collectible mailed to you during our Zoom and I'll show you the word at the end if you don't say it. I got the idea from Groucho Marx, who used to do a show called "You Bet Your Life." Your folks can probably tell you a little bit about it, and and then the other thing is there's a good chance we may be joined by a special guest.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's another thing that I like to do as a part of the VIP membership. And I'm glad you have the Carl and the Passions issue because I think our special guest tonight is actually in this issue, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So we'll see. Which will be nice. So since you're new, you got back issues, and the VIP membership's a new subscription for you. What do you like about the magazine, and what's drawn you to it?
I would probably one of the many things I like about it is probably the interviews with the members of the band.
Mhm. And do you like the session? Well, in the case of the Curl and the Passions edition, there's the sessionography. Do you like reading about that stuff too? Do you like getting into that minutia?
Yeah.
So when did you discover the Beach Boys? How long have you been kind of aware of them and into their music?
Probably about late, or I don't want to say late, but sometime in 2022.
Okay. And did you end up buying the Sail on Sailor box set or any of that music?
I bought the double LP.
Okay. And outside of that collection, have you been kind of compelled to listen to other eras of their music, or does that specific era, do you like that more?
Um, I like a lot of like different eras of the band, especially like the late 70s.
Okay. Yeah. What do you tend to like the most?
Mm, like songs or
Yeah.
that's a tough one to answer, you know. I
I know.
I like a lot of their songs.
Yeah, there's a lot of great music. A lot of great music. So, but if you like, but you did get the PDF I sent you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, did you enjoy reading that? Did you, anything there of interest?
Oh, I haven't gotten around. I haven't had a chance to read
Oh,
it.
okay. Okay. You didn't know there was going to be a quiz, did you?
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to figure out what would you like to see in the magazine? Now, obviously, if you ordered back individual issues, you visited the magazine, our store, and you've seen all the different eras that we've covered. Is there any particular era that you'd like to see kind of, us dive into a little bit more?
That's a good question. You guys done like a really good job of covering a lot of the different eras of the band, so it's hard to say.
Well, if you like the late '70s stuff, I will let you know that I've been working. Well, it's in the news section. I don't think it's as far back as the Carl and the Passions edition, but um, I had been working with Ron Altbeck, and he's the one who co-wrote Lady Linda with Mike and Al. He co-wrote She's Got Rhythm with Brian on the MIU album. He produced most of the MIU album with Al, and also co-wrote Winds of Change that Al sings with Ed Talea. And Ed is formerly like Ron of the group King Harvest, who did Dancing in the Moonlight. Um, and then of course Ron unfortunately passed away this year in February unexpectedly.
Hmm.
But I had done extensive interviews with Ron prior to him passing away, and with his passing, I've managed to get more interviews with people than I ever would have dreamed. So if you like the late '70s stuff, I've got so much minutia. I've got the sessionography, which I love to be able to include because I think it's, even for me as a fan, I really love to be able to put on a record and look at the interviews and listen to the music and find out where they were recording or the dates or the location of where they were recording and how many takes they did in some cases and what ultimately ended up on the album. I've always enjoyed kind of, it's as fascinating to me as I think as anybody else. I'm just really fortunate in that uh, I get to put it together. So I take great joy in that because it's fascinating to me. And the Carl and the Passions issue is a great example of that, where I can take the interviews, kind of weave them around go back to that timeline in their history, and then also put in that minutia, that sessionography that helps us understand when it was made, where it was made, and give us a better appreciation of what we're listening to when we turn it on. And I thought they did a great job with that Sail on Sailor set because the Carl and the Passions album never sounded so good. It
Yeah.
really sounds great. And actually, one of my my favorite song by the group is Cabanescence.
Oh
So
yeah.
when I saw your answer about that, I was like, oh my gosh, so I finally meet another Cabanescence fan. Because to me, when I listen to Cabanescence, not only is it about a great deal of American history because it's about the building of the railroad, it's about the Chinese coolie workers, uh, working on the railroad or panning for gold or whatever it was they were doing. So it's the coolie workers, it's the Grand Coulee Dam. There's so many little lyrical hidden things, double entendres about that entire song, and then the fact that their voices are replicating the sound of steam coming out of an engine as it's coming down the tracks. The woo, 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 all of that. I love it. It's the most visual. There are other great visual recordings by other artists, even the Beach Boys, but that to me is just my all-time favorite. I feel like when I listen to it, I'm looking at a painting. That's how that song is to me. I feel like it's my all-time favorite by the group. And similarly, in my top five, All This Is That is another one.
Oh,
It's just a beautiful, gorgeous. Their voices just sound so wonderful on it. And Carl's Jay Guru Dev at the end there, as he comes in, it's just that beautiful, pillowy vocal. As they're kind of singing that, all I am that, thou art that. It's just so great. And then now is the acapella version of that song on the 2 record set?
um, I don't think so.
Oh, you would love it. It's amazing. I don't know if you have like a streaming service that you listen to stuff on, uh,
Yeah.
you may be able, I'm sure it's out there. But it's really gorgeous. If you like that song, hearing it a cappella is just mind blowing. It's so beautiful. And how can it not be with those voices? But oh my gosh, wow. But what else? So what other additions do you have that since you say you got a few, you got the Crawl and the Passions one. What else do you have?
Friends, Wild Honey, Smiley Smile.
Okay. The Friends issue was one of those. there's really two things that, well, one, it's always great if I put together a magazine that the fans enjoy, that the subscribers enjoy. But when I put together an issue and the band is telling the actual members of the group, not the band, not the touring band members, but the actual members of the group are telling me how great it is, that's when I really feel like I've done a good job. Bruce Johnston over and over told me how great the Friends issue was. And I would just look at him and go, I'm glad you really liked it. He'd go, are you kidding? So, but no, the Friends edition had one other moment that I really gave me great satisfaction, and that was when I was interviewing Mike, and it's in that issue where I asked him when we were talking about Dennis and his relationship with Dennis, and how Dennis was the one who stayed behind in Paris after they played the UNICEF benefit concert. And they all went off to party with Marlon Brando or whatever in London. And Dennis had stayed back, talked longer with the Maharishi, with Maharishi. And he called them and said, you got to come back. He wants to give us mantras and teach us transcendental meditation. And because Mike practices it to this day, I asked him in that interview, is that possibly the most important phone call you've ever taken? And he said, yeah, it probably is. And so that meant a lot to me, to remind Mike of the value, the meaningful value that Dennis had in his life. Because, we've read it. I don't know how much history you've read about the group, but there's a lot of, moments in time with that group where they weren't in agreement, a lot. And so I really appreciate the moments where I can remind them of the times where they were really a great asset to one another. And that was certainly one, because, Dennis is such a great, just such a great, he just turned into such a great musician and great songwriter. And I just love his stuff. I mean, did you happen to get any of the Feel Flows collection?
Um, I got the two CD one.
Okay. Yeah, then some of Dennis's great, songs that he had on Sunflower, and then I can't recall if on the two CD set is his song "Wouldn't It Be Nice to Live Again" on that as a bonus
Oh,
track.
I think so.
Okay, because that's just such a monster song. It's so good. The bootlegs and test pressings you have.
Oh, I brought them down. I only own one. I don't know why my dad put multiple, but
Okay.
I have a German test pressing of Friends.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. So is it like
Yeah.
a white label?
What?
Is it like so there's the thing, is it like a white label?
I can get it out. Hang on.
Okay. John, can you hear me?
Hello.
There we go.
I got out and came back in.
Success. Fantastic. Well, John, this is Jacob Carter. I
Yeah,
sent you a little
Jacob,
information, and I was just telling him right before you got on that he does not have the Audrey edition. He has not read that, so he didn't know how you had met Dennis, and I just said that you guys had met in high school. If you want to tell.
Okay, well, yeah, we met in high school. It was like the first day of high school, and we were waiting outside a classroom. And Dennis he's a high spirited guy. He always has been, so big. And there was some ruckus going on, and I looked over, and these two guys were starting to fight. And the bell rang, and they stopped fighting. They never really started fighting. And so we all went to our classroom. Our next class, we had PE, and Dennis was in my PE class, and we had a first day of PE. The coach had a weightlifting contest. Dennis was winning, and did more than he did, and I won. And I looked at Dennis, and he looked at me, and we just kind of, nodded to each other. But the ruckus that they got in before that, they had decided to get together after school and fight. And so school, I went out to where I knew they were going to fight, and there was a huge crowd there. I mean, I couldn't believe that this had gotten around campus and it was a big thing already. But I knew the guy that Dennis was going to fight, and I kind of knew Dennis just because we talked after PE class and stuff. And they were both nice guys, and I don't like people to fight, so I just walked through the crowd, walked into the middle, and kind of told Eddie was the guy's name, and I said, "Eddie and Dennis, you guys don't want to fight," and kind of pushed them away from each other. And I took Dennis by the arm, and we walked out of the crowd, and just continued walking over to his house. And when I walked in his house, there was a real dark room over to my right, and I heard someone say, "Dennis, who's that?" And I said, "It's Jon Parks, Mr. Wilson." So that was Murray, and it is been middle of the day in a dark room. And then Ryan and Carl were there, and Audrey was there. So I met everybody all at one time, and that's just how we got started. And from there, I think it was the next day, Dennis came over to my house about 10 o'clock at night. I was in bed, and I had a big window in my bedroom. And he stuck his head in and said, "Let's go to the beach." And it's 10 o'clock at night. And my family is, I said, "No, I can't do that." But anyway, we met the next, started going to the beach together and hanging out all of the time together. And we just continued that through high school. Dennis and Carl left high school to start the group. They actually started it when they were in school, but they weren't doing much. They would do a couple of clubs. They played at the high school a little bit. And we went, just did minor shows. We did a show with, in those days, it was kind of, there were surfers and there were called hodads, were the lowrider Mexican guys looking over their steering wheel. And so we had a show that we had to do, and El Monte was the name of the city. And both Dennis and Carl were kind of afraid to what was going to happen there. And so we got trench coats, like we kind of dressed like what we thought the crowd was going to dress like. And when we got there, everybody had Pendletons on, and they were all surfers. And we threw our clothes back in my car. And so I just started going to shows with them and everything. And that's kind of how we just got together and met and started doing things together. But we became good friends. Boy, for years, we did everything together. I mean, honestly, it ended up that Dennis started making a lot of money a year or two later. When they first started, it wasn't true, and it's kind of a management thing that they never got into because of these things that happened. But Murray managed them at first, and they would do little shows. They make $500 or $1,000 or something like that, and Murray would give them each $25 and put the rest in the bank for them. So he's managing their money and managing the group. And Murray ended up getting him a record deal. Murray knew a little bit about the industry because he wrote songs and kind of always wanted to get into writing songs and publishing and stuff. And I mean, that gets into a whole different, why we really never, everybody said, "What did you do with the Beach Boys?" And everybody, someone will say, "I managed them." I say it was a managerial position. I did both business and technical stuff with them. We had Nick Grillo that was the finance guy, and he was named as their manager, but he wasn't. Most groups, even like the Beatles, they had a manager that took 10 or 20% of the group, and they fronted money to him and did all kinds of stuff for him and got him going. Like, that's what happened with the Beatles. It didn't happen with the Stones that way, but anyway, it ended up that we kind of ran our own business. The Beach Boys would hire people to work for them, and they would kind of oversee the business. And that business part of it, it ended up on Carl. And Carl was good at it and liked it. And he made, we ran the business for him. We did everything. He didn't do anything. He just made decisions, and we carried out those decisions. And the group, I mean, it wasn't, he didn't have a monopoly on it. They had meetings and talked about what they wanted to do, when they wanted to tour, what kind of tour they wanted to do, and things like that. And that was partly my job and Dick Durier's job. We would set up the tours. We'd get calls from agents, and they would give us dates and places that we're playing, and we'd see how far away they were. We're going to drive or fly. What are we? What's the itinerary going to look like? And we set those up. But also we did our own shows where we would front our shows ourselves, and I would actually go out beforehand and promote the show, do the radio advertising, and go to the venue and set up everything that we needed at the venue, then come back, and then I would go on tour. And so Dick would also go on tour. And I handled most of the staging things at that time, made sure they had everything they needed on stage, and I mixed the sound for them during the show. Steve Desper did that for a while, and I did that for a while. And
I can tell you, Jacob, if you were to look in your Carl and the Passions issue on page 19, there's a very young John photograph there with Dennis, Carl, and Steve Desper, and I'll show you the picture real quick, right there. So that's, if I can get my finger in it. So this is John right here with Steve Desper behind Dennis and Carl and Steve Desper. Yeah, and around 1970.
I'm trying to 3 dots to see if I can get 2 videos going.
So this is John. Jacob is slowly building his ESQs. So he just started a 1-year subscription with this VIP membership, but prior to that, he had just ordered some single back issues, and this is one of them that he has, the Carl and the Passions edition that we did some interviewing in, and I was wondering if you could talk to Jacob a little bit about that period and what you remember, maybe either about the tour or maybe some of the songwriting at that time of that album.
Well, let's see, what year was Carl in the
72.
I remember about Carl and the Passions was we did the record and put it out, and we went on tour, and we were back in the Carolinas, I think. Our first show was in South Carolina, I think, and we're on the road, and there's a huge billboard that says Carl and the Passions, so tough. And that's what they thought the name of the new name of the group was.
Well, and they had no idea that it was the Beach Boys, right? There was confusion. They didn't, because the Beach Boys name wasn't on the billboard, was it?
No.
That's so crazy.
I started razzing Carl because of that. But I guess the guy mixed up on the contract, looking at the name, but I don't know why he would do that. But the songwriting part of it, what year was it?
72. Songs like All This Is That, Make It Good, Cuddle Up. We're on it. Give me just a second, I can get to that page. But yeah, this is when they played Carnegie, which was kind of a big deal for them.
You cut out. You said they played what?
Carnegie Hall.
Oh yeah, right. That was terrible.
Why do you say that?
Well, I mean that's a story too. We did Carnegie Hall because it was, what year was Woodstock?
69? Is that right? I think it was.
Well, we had missed out on on being in Woodstock. I think what happened is the guys, I think Jack Riley was with us at the time,
Yes.
handling things, and I think that's why he wasn't with us after we found out about what happened. But the guys we knew the promoters of Woodstock, and Carl was upset that they didn't call him and let him know we were back east. We, taken a helicopter in and done a show. And so we did Carnegie Hall to make up for New York for that, for missing Woodstock, trying to re-promote ourselves to that area.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just honest to what it was. And it turned out that Jack did get a call from the promoters of Woodstock, and they asked us to come in, and he refused it and didn't tell us.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
We had gone on, done a bunch of stuff, done Holland album and come back, and we found out about that, and we let Jack go.
So what did you like about John? What did you like about the contributions made by Blondie Chaplin and Ricky Fataar to the things like songs like "He Come Down" and "Hold On, Dear Brother"?
Yeah, boy, there was a group called the Flame that they belonged to. They were from South Africa. They were like the #1 group in South Africa. We met them in England. The Bee Gees wanted to produce them and take them over, but they came with us. We were starting our record company, so we had them come with us. And they did an album, and I loved the album. They were a great group.
It's so good. And Carl produced that.
Yeah. And I mean, he did a great job with it too. I mean, music was pretty rock and roll at that time, stronger than it was than earlier times. And they did that very well. They were just an amazing group, and it was mismanagement that they didn't get a record deal themselves and go on with their own group, The Flame. But Ricky in particular is a great musician, piano and drums. And their Blondie just has he's a real good guitar player, has an amazing vocal. They're just really good. And they added to the Beach Boys sound. Their sound was, of course, a little bit different than our norm. And the Beach Boys music, it seems like every time the Beach Boys release an album, I don't think the record companies were always happy with, the single that was coming out of the record. So I think their promotion was weak, but also the music was either more complicated or different than what was going on. We did our own thing. We didn't look at what was going on there and try and do that. We did our own thing always. And so some of the stuff didn't, I mean, I think Carl and the Passions, where did it come into Billboard? Not very well.
Yeah, no, it didn't do that well. And again, it probably had a lot to do with the fact that it wasn't really promoted. Well, and that's what was so strange is I hope I get this correct because it'd be too hard to find it in the magazine. But it seems to me, if I'm remembering correctly when I did this, that in the US, they coupled it with Pet Sounds.
Yeah, right.
As a twofer. And then overseas, it was just released by itself. And then Pet Sounds was released separately, re-released separately in a different jacket, and like a brown jacket. So it's very strange promotion. And I think, John, you have to help me on this. If I'm remembering correctly, Carl was in favor of Pet Sounds being attached to it because he felt that had not gotten enough attention, that he wanted people to hear that. Is that accurate?
That's true for the exact reason I'm talking about. I mean, Pet Sounds was amazing. I mean, we know that now.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows that now. We knew it then. And it didn't do as well as it should have. I mean, it should have just gone crazy on the radio. But it takes the Beach Boys, their music takes time for people to listen to it, get close to it, see what it really is. Brian, in music, you know, that we have stereo now, so we can take the drums and we can place each drum at a different position, listening to two speakers. And Brian is a master at placing different frequencies in different places to make the movement right with the music. And then also the depth of it. There's if you I whenever I give people pet sounds or tell them to listen to it, I tell them to listen to it with headphones on because there's so much depth that you're not going to hear over regular speakers in an acoustic room, you know, that may not be perfect. But if you put headphones on, you can hear all the things in the background. And that takes time for people to see what it is and fall in love with it.
Yeah, and let it kind of just become a part of them. So Jacob's favorite band member. I mean, I don't know how easy it was for him to choose. They're all great in their own way. He really likes Brian, and I was wondering if you had a Brian story that you might be able to share with him.
We had at this time we had the studio in Brian's house.
Okay.
You walk in and there was a family room. There's a big entryway with stairs going up and the kitchen straight ahead. And to the left is their family room. And to the right is the living room. If you go in the living room, you can look at this huge window, which is the cover of the Wild Honey album.
Yep, the stained glass window. Yeah.
You go left, and we made that into a studio. And it goes up over the maids' quarters outside. This is in Bel Air.
Mm-hmm.
If you I don't know. We have Google now, Jacob. If you see the house, it's 10452 Bellagio Road in Bel Air.
Yeah, you can look at it. It's quite a house.
So anyway, the maid's quarters we turned into an echo chamber, a really good echo chamber we have, as good as they had at Capitol Records. And so anyway, I came into the house and I just you know, it's a gated house. I get in by myself and go into the house by myself. I don't need to tell them I'm coming or anything. So I walk in the house and open the door to the studio, and his back is to me and he's playing the piano and he turns around and looks at me and says, "John, come here, you got to hear this song I just wrote." And so I did. I came down and I sat on the bench with him, and all of a sudden Brian starts playing and goes, "Okay, here's the rhythm, here's the drums and here's the bass," and he starts playing on the piano. Here's the melody, and he starts singing a little bit, and then he's, "Okay, here's the horns," and starts singing those horn parts, and then here's the strings, and start singing that, and then in Brian's own way, he's playing the piano, and all he's telling me all these things, and now I can hear all of these things because he's hit each instrument in different parts of it and carrying the song through. And then he said, "Okay, now here's the harmony parts." And he starts singing the harmony parts. He's already got them down. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing all of this in my head. And for me, I think I'm hearing what is in Brian's head. And it is incredible I mean, that helped me be a better engineer. I can listen to a song. I was in church the other day and I told my wife this girl has a good voice on stage, and she said, "How can you hear that with all the people that are singing?" And I can, because of Brian. I can pick out things in a music that you know, simply. But it was just a wonderful feeling to just for a couple of minutes there feel what Brian hears in his head and what it makes him feel like.
Mm.
And, you know, it's not just the music. Brian has not just a musical note that he's hearing, he has a particular sound that he's hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll hear sometimes that, you know, he lifted up the piano lid and started plucking the piano rather than playing.
You still believe in me.
Huh?
You still believe in me, right? Where he was picking the strings with the guitar pick. Yeah.
But he'll do that with everything. He'll find something that makes the right sound. And, you know, even I think it was Carol Kay was in the what did they call Hal Blaine's group?
Oh, the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, the Wrecking. He was part of the, and we used them quite often. And I think it was on Good Vibration. She was playing the bass, and it wasn't, it was the right notes, everything was perfect, except he wanted a different sound on the bass, and she can play with the pick and with her fingers, so she did both, playing with a pick and her fingers, and got the right sound for good vibrations. And that's real clear in that song. You can hear that pick
Yeah.
on, and I mean, it partly makes the song.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian, I mean, I've worked with, I've seen and talked to and lived with a lot of different producers, and Brian is by far leaps and bounds ahead of everybody I know.
Hmm.
I mean, he knows he could be an engineer. I mean, the producer and engineer, writing. He doesn't write lyrics. That's the only thing Brian's not great at.
That's true. Arranger, composer,
Yeah,
right? Producer, engineer.
but he can do all of those things, and he's running. I mean, working with Brian, he's quick. I mean, you'll be doing something and he'll be walking away. One time he had the, where he put something on the key of the organ, and started and ran into the studio, and I was with him, and I turned around and started running back because it was doing the vibrato in the Hammond B3 organ. And he said, and it just that quick, he said, John, it's okay, it'll be even on the tape. And he's right, you don't hear that. But also Brian uses that, he takes the key of the song and he underlays a tone of that key in the song. And you don't hear that when you're listening to the song, but it's there.
Interesting.
So he balances everything to that key.
Oh, that's cool.
He can hear that, and we can't. He puts it down to where he can hear it.
Right. That's so cool. Hey, Jacob, I was wondering, did you have, now that John's given you a little bit about his background and experiences, did you have any questions you'd like to ask him?
No, I have none to ask.
Okay. Okay.
Now I can see. Jacob, what do you mean? You can ask me anything.
If I have something at him. Oh, you know what? Jacob likes the song Steamboat. Is it right? And Cabanescence. Do you have any, which is like my favorite Beach Boy song of all time is Cabanescence. Do you remember anything about that, John?
Oh, I mean, that was a crazy time. You know, Jacob, we were in those, some of those years, I mean, when we were pretty mellow, we were pretty even, but all of the other groups that we knew were totally into drugs, smoking grass, doing acid, doing all those things. And we tried it. Brian got a little heavy into it, as everybody knows, but it was during some of those years that we did it. And to add to that, Van Dyke Parks wrote those lyrics that in Cabanescence. And Van Dyke Parks is as good a lyricist as Brian is a producer.
Oh, amen.
He is incredible. He can string words together. He can sit there and give you a sentence, and you'll understand the sentence. But if you really look at the words, they mean absolutely nothing. They just rhyme. It gives you a feeling that, yeah, that's good. And he really does that, and that's part of what I love about Cabanescence, is that part of the songs.
I was, before you came on, John, we were talking about Cabanescence, and I was, the reason I love it so much is because it's always been to me, like an oral, like an audible painting. Like when I listen to it, I feel like I'm listening to an American tapestry, you know, a piece of Americana.
That's part of what Van Dyke does with lyrics. I mean, Brian's music, Brian will make the music to give you that feeling. But to add Van Dyke Parks lyrics that do kind of the same thing makes that what it is. I mean, Brian worked with other good lyricists. I mean, I got credits on some of the records for writing lyrics, and some of them I didn't. But what we would do, you know, Mike, we used Mike Love a lot. I mean, we not used him. Mike was there, and Mike was a great lyricist too. And I don't think Mike was ever recognized enough for what he did lyrically with the Beach Boys. I mean, at first he didn't get even credit for it, but he
Right.
made up for that later. But Mike is a great lyricist too, but he's not anything compared to what Van Dyke Parks could do.
Right. Van Dyke is the type of guy I always like. He could write something as I don't know if this is the right word, kind of esoteric, like Alice in Wonderland. Van Dyke could have written something like that, that type
Yeah,
of movie. Whereas Mike, if he were tasked with writing something like that, his movie may be more like Grease. You know,
yeah.
just different approaches, different word usage, different way of looking at things, different life experiences.
It was funny. One time I was at, and Van Dyke is a pretty smart guy too. Certainly knows the music business. And I was in with Mo Austin, the president of the Warner Brothers, one time, talking to him about another situation, a different group. And Mo, I mean, Mo knew who I was, and I even called Marilyn and talked to Brian when I was in the office there because Mo wanted to know something. But and Brian would be afraid if Mo called him. But anyway, I was in there for 20 minutes talking to Mo, and then all of a sudden the door opened behind Mo, and Van Dyke came out. And Van Dyke was back there, had listened to the whole thing. He worked for Mo Austin. And he's the one that Mo Austin would have the meeting with people, and Van Dyke would help him make decisions. And nobody ever knew he was there.
And Jacob, I will recommend an album if you've not heard of it or haven't thought about looking into Van Dyke stuff. Van Dyke put out an album, I think it was 1967. It was after Brian had shelved Smile, an album called Song Cycle, and it's brilliant. And it's just fantastic. So it's probably, I'm hoping it's out on streaming services if that's or if you're like me and you want the old-fashioned CD. It might, I'm sure you could find it for sale on eBay or something like that. But or if you like vinyl, I'm sure you could find it out there. It's Van Dyke's first solo album. It's called Song Cycle, and it's glorious. He did other great albums after that, like Discover America, Clang of the Yankee Reaper, and of course Orange Crate Art with Brian in '95, which is another great collaboration between the two. But Van Dyke's work is really, really wonderful. So if you look up and find Song Cycle, I'd like to think you'd enjoy it since you enjoy Cavanescence.
Yeah, going back to that album, there's so many albums like in Europe. I mean, there's so many different record companies or distributors, sub record companies from Warner Brothers in every different country. In fact, my brother went into a antique store one time, and he picked up all of these albums for me, and some of them are normal ones that we like, but there's ones
Like that
that
one.
I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Just that one's the right one, but some of these are just put together in Europe, and they're different album covers than we've ever seen before.
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 albums in that one. These I've never seen before. The White Album.
Oh, that's a great collection right there. The 10 Years of Harmony is great.
Yeah. And that must have been, were we with Jim Guercio at that time?
Yes.
Was that later?
Yeah. No, that's with Guercio. That's with Guercio.
Okay, because they own this printing.
Yeah, okay.
That's how I know that. If you ever look back at Chicago stuff, Chicago's name is the same script.
Okay.
So they managed Chicago and the Beach Boys.
Jacob, get that collection if you don't have the 10 Years of Harmony. It's from '81, I believe. It's got, and I don't know if Sea Cruise since has come out on Made in California box set or not, but Dennis doing Sea Cruise, which was a leftover outtake from the
that's a good song too.
Yeah, if you've ever heard the old song Sea Cruise, I can't think of who did it originally back in the '60s, but it's a cover version and it's really good. And it's just that whole collection, that 10 Years of Harmony, is really their '70s stuff. So it's not the standard greatest hits package that you get from the Best of or Sounds of Summer or anything like that. It's the great stuff they did on Warner Reprise and Caribou.
It is, and that's not a European one. That was put here, so it was put together. And the Guercio guys were really good. Jim Guercio's good management company. I'll,
Yeah.
I'll show you guys my room a little bit. This is
Oh, that'd be great.
a friend of mine. This is a. Can you see that?
Yeah, you are here?
Yeah, that's a fame. This is the original painting of a famous postcard that's out in the world, and that's
Okay.
where we are in the universe.
Wow.
This is where Dennis and I used to surf a lot in Malibu.
Cool. Now, is that a painting of the location or an actual photo? I can't tell.
It's a painting from a photo.
Oh, okay.
You can see this is the Malibu Pier with thing out there, but those waves out there, those are about 6 or 7 foot waves. Then they get smaller as they come in. But you can catch a wave here and come in here, and that's about 3 blocks.
Wow. Jacob, have you ever thought about surfing?
No, not really.
I haven't either.
Here's a painting that I got in Malibu that I like a lot.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's
30
really cool.
And here's some of my gold records over on the wall.
Wow. Love it.
Oh, this one is Endless Summer,
Oh, yeah.
David.
That's fantastic. Thanks for showing us that stuff. That's fantastic. Man, that's really cool.
And this I got, this is a Remington, and I got this because it's kind of like the Brother Records logo,
Yeah.
the Surf Up album
Mm-hmm.
cover, but it's a different
The end of the
one
trail.
there.
Yeah, similar to the end of the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one that they have on the album cover is actually in California, a place called Visalia. The statue is.
Oh, okay. So
Anyway,
is it like in a museum for people to see, or just outside, or?
out in the open. It's a
Oh.
pretty big. It's
Oh.
about 8 feet or 5 feet tall.
Okay. I think I knew that. It seems to me I knew that, but yeah, okay. It's so cool. I love that the group got into the brother logo with that, and then they had the other, what was the other one called, where the Indian is on the horse and he has his arms up. I can't think of the.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can't think of what that had a different name. And I can't think of what it was called off the top. I'm not remembering.
Records logo, I think.
Say that again.
That's our Brother Records logo.
Yeah, yeah. It was something of the Great Spirit or something. I'm not. I should know that, but I'm just blanking on it. But man, it's just such another great part of their history. I think it's actually on the front of the 10 Years of Harmony. The Indian on the horse with his arms spread out that you were just looking at. And it's in one of these issues that Jacob,
Right.
it may be in the Smiley Smile edition where we talk about that, or the summer 2022 edition. If you don't have that, I recommend you get it. It's the where I interview Arnie Geller, because Arnie was a part of incorporating that logo into Brother Records, because they had just started Brother Records in 66, 67 time frame. And Arnie was, I don't know if he was instrumental in that, but he was kind of behind the scenes, I guess, working with John and others to kind of.
Well, and Brian spent a lot of time at home working on while we were on the road and stuff. And Arnie Geller was one of Brian's best friends, and so they hung out a lot together. And he was a good artwork guy, and did some album covers for us and did other stuff.
Yeah, he did the Friends album cover.
What?
The Friends album cover. He worked. He did that with a business partner, and I think Jacob has the Friends edition too. So I think that minutia is in there, and if it's not, Jacob, I'll show you really quick the edition, just in case you don't have it. Here it is, right here. So this is the one, and this has a really extensive interview with Arnie Geller about meeting Brian, getting into the business side of things for the group, and then the formation of Brother Records, how he came up with the logos and everything, and the picture sleeve they designed for Heroes and Villains, that single, and then and there's some other, yeah, and then the Friends album cover and how that happened. So there's a lot of history in here about Arnie's time with the group. And there's another one Arnie talks about um, in the summer 2021 issue that has the guys from the Surf Up era on the cover. That edition has interviews with several people about the Radiant Radish. So there's like a really kind of good dissection of it. It's Arnie, Richard Dickey Mayer, who I'm sure John remembers that name, and they talk about.
They opened a health store, Brian, and Brian used to go down there and work in the health food store.
That's crazy. But John, thank you so much for your time. We're really grateful. I love these stories, and I hope I'll have to have if you're up for it, I'll have you back on again, because you're a wonderful storyteller, and I'm so grateful for have known you now for a few years, but this is the first time we're actually seeing one another. But you brought so much depth and content to the Beach Boys story. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Okay, well, I appreciate all that you do too, David.
All right. Well, take care. And
okay. Nice meeting you.
Yes, nice meeting you too.
Was there anything else you want to know, Jacob?
No,
not in particular.
No, not in particular, but it was really interesting hearing what you had to say. Really was.
Okay, well, good. Well, if you ever want to hear more, just give David a call.
That's right. Well, he's got a year subscription, so we can pick up where we left off, down the road here.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you, guys. Talk to you later.
Okay. Yep, take care.
All right.
Well, I hope that was a nice surprise for you, Jacob.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. Well, time has just flown. John is such a wonderful storyteller. And his experiences are there's so many. I mean, he when he left the Beach Boys, he was in the music industry and he worked with so many different acts. So he's like an encyclopedia of experiences and information that I actually, now I've interviewed him a few times, so some of the things he shared with us I already knew, but he also got into some other areas that I had not heard him share before. So that was really nice. Is there anything else that is on your mind, or did you enjoy this? I hope you enjoyed this.
I really did enjoy this.
Good. All right. Well, have a great night and take care, and happy birthday.
Thank you.